Hi everybody, this is Taffy bringing you part 4 of my Fire Emblem 10 hard mode transfers 100% growths except Ike LTC, though Ike will have perfect growths now that his anti-benchmark has gone by. All of our armies have united, and that leaves us with a giant cast of characters. The game will promptly ask us to split up into 3 armies, each of which will tackle 2 maps as we go towards the endgame. Some units are forged into specific armies, but most of them are up to our discretion. We start off with Ike's scripted promotion. This gives him access to Axis, which people usually poke fun at as being relevant exactly once, but we will actually have Ike ditch swords until we're well into the endgame maps. The problem Ike has is that he was limited to his tier 2 caps in part 3, and the Ragdoll doesn't have much innate crit, meaning he has issues one-rounding enemies in part 4 for a while. Forged hand axes will let him break past all the generics he'll face. He also gains Nihil on promotion, though it is a personal skill and it does cost capacity. We need to train him for the endgame maps. We don't have enough time to go into the justification for every single unit for now, so I'll save those for the actual part 4 army clears. Both the Silver and Grail armies will have to face 2 route maps, while the Hawk army gets off easy and has to deal with 1 route and 1 kill pass. Part 4 enemies appear to be in tier 2 classes, but they really are basically tier 3 units without masteries, both in terms of stats and EXP payout. The Heron siblings are forced into specific armies, so we don't have to make any choices regarding them for now. There is of course some leeway to what I'm doing. I believe in incomplete recruitment, Neil Lucci needs to go to the Hawk army. You'll also see a couple of new yet familiar faces. I'll talk about them when they debut with the blue paint. The maps in part 4 go Silver, Grail, Hawk, and then that order again. The Silver army is where we can most freely send skills and items to from 3 endgame, since we can just deposit them for other armies to use if needed. Kai'Sa was sent here, and we will unequip and deposit Wildhawk since the Grail army needs it. 4 Prologue is filled with thickets that slow down most units, so it's a flyer map. We head to the map to pick up 2 more new units. Our new faces are Skrymir the Lion, Sanaki the Empress, and Naesala the Raven King. Skrymir has a lot of cons, so he's good at shoving. He comes with Provoke and Resolve. Oh, you thought Skrymir was gonna fight? Remember, he's still a one-range lock Lagoose who needs to spend an action to transform before he can do anything of consequence. Empress Sanaki is more relevant. She comes with pretty decent base stats, though her bulk is really bad and her strength stat is so low she makes weapon weight relevant again for the first time since part 1. Sanaki will come to the endgame maps without taking up a discretionary slot, so we want to train her to do some things, but the nature of the Silver army maps lends itself to getting her the EXP she needs. Sanaki comes with a powerful PRF Cymbeline. Something I should talk about is Flare, the mastery skill of Archsages and Sanaki. While most other masteries are just crits or straight up upgrades to crits, Flare is in a weird spot where we sometimes don't want it to proc. It negates resistance and heals the damage that it does. The res negating effect is nice given these games enemies tend to have decent res, but missing out on the 3x damage from crits can cause problems in places. Finally, we have Naesala. He thankfully has the same move as the Hawks and comes with Maelstrom advantage and is of course a Laguz Royal. Naesala's stats are the worst of the Laguz Royals and he also only has S Strike instead of the SS Strike the bigger guns do, though at least he has his mastery skill despite being below level 30. He will help out a bit in the Silver army, but he's not going to be an investment target. On this map, Marcia will handle most of the northeast section, flying that far with celerity. I could have equipped Daunt to improve her avoid, I just didn't want to see the animation a million times while editing the video. To actually fly that far, we need Leanne to dance for her pretty far away, which necessitates a shove train to get her that far, and a second flyer who can rescue Leanne to avoid her distracting enemies. This shove train is the reason why we sent a bunch of infantry units to the Silver army. The shove train itself must leave its ends exposed to cover some enemies, and we have to have Soth be the exposed unit since we didn't send any other competent 7-move units to this army. Soth is far too slow to double enemies and doesn't one-shot them, so we give him Adept to double his damage output. This is the map we belatedly bought the Beast Killer for Soth for, though a max forged Steel Knife would also get the job done. That leaves the bottom right, which will go to Sigrun. I believe I mentioned it earlier, but Sigrun is going to take Paragon for both of the Silver army maps because there really is nobody else who wants it. We deliberately left Savior in Convoy instead of putting it on Titania in 3 endgame, so Har could equip it on this map. We forged a big Fire Tome in 3 endgame, which Khalil will take as the other exposed end of the shove train, but she isn't actually going to fight on this map thanks to Shade. We need to shove Leanne 8 times and we need to chain them in a very specific way. However, there are 2 enemies in the way which Shannon and Micaiah dealt with. We can see the effects of cheaping out on the 1 endgame Light Tome Forge here. Micaiah only pulled 2 crit on that enemy. We gave Sigrun Discipline just because nobody else needs it, but she's never going to use a lance that she wouldn't be able to wield at base. We started by having Skrymir shove Leanne to the right, getting him out of the way. Then Sanaki was the second shover, putting her in range of one of the enemies from the bottom right. The next 3 shovers can be random infantry. If he had a competent 7 move unit, Sod could be the 6th shove and equip Shade and stay away from combat, but since we have none, Khalil is the 6th shove and Sod runs up to be the 7th shove, putting him in range of all the enemies to the north. Naesala then uses his unique starting spot and wings to fly up to give Liane her last shove. We can expose Sod and Naesala like this because the only enemy with 2 range nearby is the crossbow warrior, whom Marcia dispatched on her first action. Marcia herself needs to move 23 squares in the best starting spot, which is why we gave her Celerity and had OP smite her. Liane needed the 8th shove so she could canto 1 down after dancing for Marcia, which let Har rescue her to safety. Marcia killed a longbow paladin with her second action on player phase, and then cantoed into a spot where she could enemy face some stationary generals. This map was rather tedious to record because basically every 2-range enemy in the northeast attacks Marcia from a diagonal, making it hard to raid, and Soth needs a depth and a crit to kill everyone who attacks him. Saniki also specifically needed to crit and not flare the one enemy who went for her. Marcia's lighter weight matters on this map. We can't have Sigrun do her job because of her starting slot. Har obviously is too heavy, and for Tanith to replicate this job, she would have to start the map in tier 2 so Ulki could actually smite her, since tier 3 Tanith is too heavy for Ulki to smite. Marcia will cap out her relevant combat stats on this map and will no longer be a serious EXP target. She will also hit SS Lances at some point in this enemy phase, which will matter exactly once. I'll let the rest of the enemy phase play out. That'll be 4 prologue and 1 turn. At the end of the map, Soth finally gets his story promotion to Whisper, uncapping his stats and learning his mastery skill, Bane. Soth isn't going to fight anything else for the rest of the run, however. Part 4 has several new turn saves to show off, and this is the first one. We get the Holy Crown, an exclusive promotion item for Mist, but we have no use for it. In the Silver Army clear, you saw that we were able to concentrate the fighting to specific units. The Grail Army's first map is a lot more vicious, and almost everybody we bring needs to be able to fend for themselves. This is the map we wanted Oscar and Kieran trained for, as well as the map Yennefer needed to be at level 30 by. Since Mia is tier 2, we need to give her the Tempest Plate, and this is also the map where the Brave Sword will finally get used. The starting slots just aren't kind to Raphael, so we use the rescue staff that Soren was carrying at the end of 3 endgame to pull him forward. As you can imagine, the rescue staff is just one item, but with 3 separate armies, there can be multiple places where it is useful, and one of those is the very next map. As such, we need to return it to Convoy, but all the hidden items on this map are in very awkward spots, and there aren't any item drops. That's where level 30 Yennefer comes in, courtesy of a brilliant idea by Veer. Thanks a lot for that. We load him up with high capacity skills and fill up his inventory so he can use the Satori sign to learn his mastery skill Tear, something that can only be done by Legoose. This causes his inventory to have 6 items. Because of the skills we equip, we can unequip 2 of his skills, which causes his inventory to fill up, letting this convoy warp the rescue staff. Yennefer specifically must do this job because of his skill Insight, because we need a unit who does this to then counter to the left to expose a bishop. To get to that bishop, we need to break a couple of bags. Some of the enemies nearby will prioritize breaking bags over attacking, which is why we need to break both of them. This is what the Brave Sword and Makalov are for. Makalov will trade the Tempest Plate back to the top of Mia's inventory and canter away to safety. Kieran needed to cap his speed in order to double that bishop. Over on the right, Boyd will cover that area, killing the one general who could reach the NPC Enna. Since 4 Prologue was done with the Celerity Seraph and Smite, instead of the classic one-turn strategy which requires Celerity Jill, Jill is freed up and the Grail Army needs her services. We need her 11 move here, and we will give her the Grail Army's Paragon for this map since she's going to get the boss kill and cover a bunch of other enemies. She kills a specific enemy to clear the spot for Oscar, who has passed to charge and cleared another spot for Ike and Soren. We need enhanced vision in the south, so Ike will use a torch with his first action. Soren is holding the blizzard we bought in 3.13, and this map is the site of his anti-benchmark. We want him to kill 2 enemies on this map, but we also want him to break his siege tome so he will automatically equip a 1 to 2 range tome for enemy phase. This means he needs to spend 2 uses on one enemy and 3 uses on the other, which can only be achieved if one of the enemies is a 3-shot by him, with an adept proc. Ike, Soren, Oscar, and Jill will be our dance targets. Ike, his mastery skill is Ether, which is the same as in Path of Radiance. It gives him 2 attacks, the first hit working like a soul, and the second hit working like Luna. Oscar has to kill that bishop since he's passive and cover some enemies from the bottom left. And Ike moves there to kill the other passive enemy between the pair of them, and also expose the boss area. This bishop is a stat roll for Soren to be forced to 3-shot him, which is why we could not afford to simply min-roll all of the enemy stats on this map. Finally, Jill will position herself to enemy face a clump of stationary enemies, including the boss, and pick off the one enemy there who lacks 2 range and hence would not die on enemy phase. Raphael is still exposed though, so Titania will rescue him. She would have liked to have Savior, but Har in 4 Prologue is a better user of it, and Titania is a tier 3 paladin unlike Oscar and Kieran, so she has the option of proccing Soul and also has generally better stats, so she can crit the sniper for instance even while carrying Raphael. Mia needed the Tempest Blade because with the Storm Sword she's too weak to handle a certain Falcon Knight. She wouldn't pull crit on it, and that would cause the Falcon Knight to actually attack her over Kieran. In this clear, because Mia has the Tempest Blade equipped, and because Kieran ends up getting crit at some point on this enemy phase, that Falco will go for Kieran instead of Mia. Part 4 EXP gain is much healthier since we're effectively fighting tier 3 enemies, and all of our tier 3 units are still fairly low leveled. So our endgame units won't have too hard of a time hitting their stat caps. I'll let the enemy phase play out. That'll be 4-1 in 1 turn. Let's join the Hawk Army for our next turn save. This is the Hawk Army's route map. It has lots of thickets, meaning once more flyers are the best choice here. This is the map we trained Heather for, but she's not strictly necessary. Dandan has devised a clear that does not require her improved terrain properties. 4-2 is where we get access to forging again, and importantly, unlike in 3 endgame, we can forge silver weapons into light tomes. We will forge a silver knife for Heather to use, which will cost a fortune. I only strictly needed to forge one maxed out light tome here, but I ended up forging 2. Those familiar with Radiant Dawn will know the game gives you 5 Master Crowns in a playthrough. 4 of those have gone to Har, Soren, Marcia, and to Jill, leaving a 5th to go to a unit of our choice. While planning this run, I assumed the 5th would have to go to Khalil as an extra Hammerne user, but that turned out to be unnecessary. None of the candidates for endgame really needed, so I ended up using it to complete a certain flex I've mentioned a couple of times earlier, ensuring this run does not use any coins. The very last place where a coin forge appeared necessary was this map, and we'll remove the need for it by using the last Master Crown on Laura. We do need to Bex for 2 levels first to gain some HP, as you'll see later. If we didn't want to promote Laura, we would either need a coin forge light tome, or Laura needs to have exactly 37 HP and either 12 or 14 defense on turn 1, and 24 resistance on turn 2. I'll explain the rationale behind those numbers during the clear. Swordmasters are the best class at punching above their weight, and Zihark and Lucia will help out on this map as infantry units. We also Bexp Alencia a bit and give her a Spirit Dust to hit some stat benchmarks during the map, and she'll wield the Hawk Army's Paragon and Provoke as the primary EXP target. Unlike the Seraphs, Alencia's 1-2 range does not have innate crit, so she has to kill 2 range enemies fair and square. Tibarn is the head of this army and our next Laguz Royal. He has one more move than regular Hawks and comes with Pavise and Savior and great stats. We want him to gain 1 point of strength before the end of the game, though that's not too hard to pull off as you'll see. The first of Mordecai's Hawk army jobs is shoving Tibarn on turn 1. The only other unit who can do this without Wild Heart is Warrior Nolan. The rescue staff has been brought down to 1 use, so Laura will repair it back to full. Astrid will pick up Laura so that Alencia will be able to take Laura from her, and Astrid will also move to that specific spot to block off the right tile so that Alencia will be able to rescue Raisin below her. This lets Raisin canto to a specific spot after dancing for Alencia. We need Raisin to perform a 4-way dance on turn 2, and so like in 3 endgame, we need to get him attacked 3 times on this enemy phase. Alencia's second action sees her rescuing Tanith, and we wanted the extra tile of range from the Spirit Dust, so we can make tier 3 Lara's Rat setup work. Alencia's Paragon amplifies the EXP payout of Rescue. We want to drop Lara next to those 2 stationary generals, so she can enemy face them. We of course mineraled all the enemy stats, and this means Lara will need to get hit by both generals to go into Wrath range. They would prefer to attack Tanith if she was nearby, which is why we wanted more staff range on Alencia, so Tanith could move further away. Tanith herself needs to cover all the 2 range enemies from the south and a number of enemies from the north. Heather had to unequip Pass because it is needed elsewhere, and so we need to actually worry about clearing out her way. We got her C support with Ranulphs, since the 2 of them stick close together in this clear. To convoy warp the Hammerne staff, we'll use a Sage on the left who drops a coin, and Lucia's inventory has been filled up for this purpose. Since we're playing full recruitment and have Heather, the clear has a bit of slack, so we can bring Leonardo along to help deal with the generals. I should explain Lara's mastery skill, Corona. It has the same resistance negating effect that Flare does, but instead of healing her, it will cut the enemy's accuracy in half. It has the same issue as Flare and sometimes being worse than critical hits. Ranulph will spend his free turn 1 to Laguz Stone up. With tier 2 Lara, if she had 37 HP and either 12 or 14 defense, one of those 2 generals would have dropped her to exactly 11 HP, which would put her in Wrath range while having 11 HP. Lara needed the extra HP level up so that she could survive being hit by both of those generals. And Tanith needed to double crit that Wyvern. We're joined by Peleus on turn 2. He's one of only 2 units who can use dark magic, which would theoretically be more siege stones, but the Hawk army doesn't need any siege after this map. He comes with the skill Miracle. If we had deployed stronger units on the right, we wouldn't even need the chip damage that he does. On turn 2, Rayson needs a shove to get to his dance spot. Alencia picks off a Blizzard Sage who would not die on enemy phase. Because Laura is tier 3, she's able to one-shot this general with the Purge crit, though she absolutely needs to have Wrath active to actually pull crit, of course. If Laura were tier 2, she would be able to use her second player phase action on this turn to purge that general for a second time in order to kill him. Tanith and Alencia will both fly off to the left to pick off a couple of passive bishops and be in position to clean out the stationary enemies there, including the boss. That sniper is standing on the spot Heather needs to be on, so Ranulf has to run up to shove her. In turn, that requires Heather to clear out all the 2-range enemies from the south on turn 1. With tier 2 Laura, Tibarn could trade a light tome back to the top of her inventory before he rescues Rayson and Cantus to the south, to enemy face the other stationary general and a couple of warriors. Tibarn's lack of 2 range is the reason Tanith had to clear out that area turn 1. On turn 2, with that kill, Tanith promotes. This will cause the boss to back off of her and go for Alencia instead. The Archsage up north is the reason tier 2 Laura would have such a contrived stat benchmark or need a coin forge. Capped magic tier 2 Laura with a max might light tome cannot one-shot him with a crit and cannot double him even with capped speed, falling short by 5 damage. To do this 5 damage, you can either gain 2 extra might with a coin or use counter. To counter for 5 damage, Laura needs to take 10 damage from him, requiring exactly 24 resistance with mineral stats. We sidestepped all of that by just promoting her to tier 3, which gets her 2 extra magic. Saving a purge use is nice in theory, but I don't think it would really matter even in incomplete recruitment. In incomplete recruitment, since we only have 1 purge, Laura would need to convoy warp it for the next map. But as you'll see, she will get 1 item drop on this enemy phase, so she'll be able to convoy warp using that. We tuned Alencia's bonus XP so she would exactly hit the strength benchmark to 1 round the boss Valtome, and his item drop will let us convoy warp rescue. I'll let the enemy phase play out. There'll be 4-2 in 2 turns. I guess I forgot to mention that Tibarn comes with Pavais and Savior. 4-3 is our real desert map. Our many flyers will be doing most of the work here. Since we have a second round of maps, we have some room to unequip resources we don't need. Volke hands in Smite and Wildheart since he won't be shoving anybody this time, and the Hawk army will need those tools. We give Saniki our second Spirit Dust since she needs to two-shot a specific enemy with Purge on turn 1. We will also buy Har a Pure Water just to help him deal with some enemy status saves. We don't need the rescue staff for this map, which is why you'll notice the only staff user in the Silver Army is Micaiah herself, but we will take the chance to repair the rescue staff again since there was no time to use the Hammerne in 4-2 for that purpose. Saniki has to purge this one specific enemy since he would get in the way later, and she needed the Spirit Dust for the extra magic to just barely two-shot him when all of the stats of the enemies have been min-rolled. She needed to equip Adept because Purge weighs her down way too much to naturally double. Micaiah uses the Hammerne on Rescue from a spot with a hidden coin, which lets her immediately convoy warp the Hammerne. Being a desert, there are a lot of hidden items, and we will use another to convoy warp the rescue staff itself on turn 2. Last time, Leanne's ability to dance 2 units at a time wasn't used, but this map is different. Skirmir once more shows off his muscles by shoving Naesala. Being one-range locked is usually a liability on giant route maps, but in the desert where infantry don't move that far, it's possible to have Ulki and Naesala actually cover specific pockets of enemies. Ulki will fly through the left side of the map using a Lagustone to transform. The infantry near where Leanne would be after dancing for Marcia carrying Micaiah and Celerity Har carrying Saniki can't actually attack her. Leanne's real concern is a Purge Bishop who has perfect hit on her and doubles and one-rounds her, which is why we wanted to equip Miracle. Micaiah herself is carried for a character recruitment on turn 2. Har drops Saniki in a specific spot to cover the units nearby, before cantoing south to cover the enemies there. Actually getting Lian to that spot required 4 shoves on turn 1. That leaves the top right, which we will have Sigrun take with Paragon. The boss area has a bunch of passive enemies, so we need to get a lot of units down there to delete the passive bishops. And Sniper has too much luck for Micaiah to kill with the cheap Doubt Light Tome, though if I'd given her Resolve, I could have used that and avoided forging a new tome in 4-2. It's not like money is a serious constraint at this point though. This map is a great training ground for Saniki. She can't equip Paragon since she had to equip Adept, but she will still cap her magic. Har also grinds up his final few levels to cap out his strength. Micaiah caps out her tier 2 magic there. Sanaki hits SS Fire, meaning she can wield Rex Flame. By ending turn on that exact spot, Micaiah recruits Stefan. All Stefan will do in this run is bring us a sword worth money and shove Micaiah so she can cover one warrior and grab an extra kill. Leanne needs one shove on turn 2 to dance for Naesala and Marcia in the right spot. Ileana will convoy work the rescue staff for the Grail Army's next map. Naesala picks off the Purge Bishop, and Ulki will kill the Sniper. The reason Har had to carry a magical unit was so that they could run through the desert unimpeded to pick off Numida and handle the enemies around him. Har himself will chase off Lakane and counter to a spot where he can enemy face another clump of enemies. Marcia and Naesala will cover the two status staff bishops. I'll let the enemy phase play out. That'll be 4-3 in 2 turns with Stefan recruited and 0 rescue uses. Alright, time for another vicious Grailmerc's turn save. We bonus EXP missed up to 20.20. We could have avoided this if we deployed her to spam physic a bit more in part 3, but have you seen the size of our bonus EXP pool? We also Bex Soren, so he gains a level in order to cap out his skill. Forage 4 sees the Grailmercs go indoors, so we have to deal with move reduction on our mounts, and we're also finally reunited with the Lagoose Emancipation Alliance, who we haven't seen since part 1. They're very badly outstatted by the enemies here, but never fear, under the auspices of Yone, Tarmod will make the ultimate ascension to Tar God. The Lagoose Emancipation Alliance have the best starting spots on the map, and they will make great use of them. Resolve, the ultimate tool to let units punch above their weight, will go on Tarmod as well as Dan. This turn save seems to be exclusive to full recruitment and is Heather's second confirmed turn save. As you'll see, we need both copies of Pass for this strategy and also need the third use of Hammerne on Rescue. We capped out Soren's skill so that with the Ike bond support, he could 1% crit that enemy to save a meteor use. Void's 30 capacity lets him equip Paragon and Pass, since he will be our EXP project on this map. On turn 1, he needs to kill an enemy in Mist's way. Mist's first action is to climb up the ledge with her 7 move and rescue Raphael up. This is why Mist had to start the map unpromoted. The rescue staff has 2 uses left, but we'll have no time later, so Riz has to jog up the ledge to repair it back to full. He has a depth since there are enemies he can't one-shot even with a crit, and Shade just to try to reduce his exposure. There is one job which can be done by a paladin on this map, and that's running through the right, which Titania will cover. Jill is using the second copy of Pass, and her unique status as a Bayark Flyer with 9 move indoors, who can also equip Pass, is crucial to this strategy. She'll pick up Soren since we need him further ahead. Ike won't be in the thick of things, but his good starting spot lets him climb up the ledge to eventually cover a few enemies. With our last 2 deploy slots, we have 2 infantry who can shove Yanaf, so he can rescue Mist and Kanto into dance formation. Vika will drop Mist before completing the diamond. After Raphael refreshes the 4 units, Vika and Yanaf will carry Raphael forward. We need his dance turn too, so we can't have him end turn in saddlebags, but he's a major liability on a route map like this, so we need to block him off from all the enemies. Soren sniped that one enemy so we could farm up around Raphael. Mist needs 1 extra square, which Tarmod will provide to rescue Jill carrying Soren to a specific spot. This gives her the 40 EXP she needs to promote. The first reason to promote Mist like this is just the extra stats. Mist's promotion grants her a lot of extra stats, and she needs every last bit to deal with the powerful enemies here. Because of the stationary generals and the spot we drop Soren, Mist will only get attacked at 1 range, so she can equip the Silver Blade for the enemy phase. Because Valkyrie's luck cap is lower than Cleric's, Mist actually loses luck on promotion in a 100% growth context. Jill needs Pass and 9 move to Kanto up to the boss area after dropping Soren. She needs to clear out all the mobile enemies there in preparation for next turn, and the spot that we put her in will also let her enemy face a couple of stationary generals. Finally, Morim will seal off Raphael from the enemies to complete turn 1. That Swordmaster chunks Tarmod, getting him into resolve range, and away we go. He will now either double or one-shot every enemy that goes for him, and this is why we forged the Max Might Max Correct Fire Tome. We gave Mist a C support with Soren, because with it, she can just barely one-shot all the enemies who go for her with Soul and equipping the Silver Blade. She fails to double these enemies since she just promoted. You can avoid this by either giving her Adept or a Crit Forge Silver Sword, which would be even stronger, but I wanted to show off it could be done with a regular old weapon. Jill hits SS Axis, which will matter a couple of times. Turn 2, we need to cover the top 3 chambers of the map, some of the enemies on the right, and the bottom left chamber. Yanaf will pick off the stationary general since he has Canto and a free player phase action. Even though he's half shifted, Tear is more than sufficient to let him kill whatever he needs to. The second and non-negotiable reason why we wanted Miz to promote was so she could rescue Mia there and then Canto into dance formation. Soren will then snipe one of the stationary generals, and this is his final magic benchmark of the run. His support with Mist is of course helping slacken that benchmark. You would think that we could enemy face that general, but that would get in the way of the boss recruiting himself. Mia will cover the top center room with the Tempest Blade. Only one out of the 4 bishops near the boss was aggressive, and we need to player face the other 3. The dance spot is rather far away, and the Lagoose Emancipation Alliance will shove Raphael 3 times to get to it, with Morim and Tormod walling off Vika from the enemies in the process. Morim cannot kill the enemies, but because Tormod is frail, the nearby Halberdier will go for him instead. Ike will cover the Halberdiers that are further away. Jill and Yanaf will clean up the bishops and position themselves next to the generals near the boss to enemy phase them. With her 4th action of the map, Mist will break the rescue staff to pull Boyd up so that with pass he can reach the entrance to the top right room. Breaking rescue lets her automatically equip the flurry for 1 to 2 range. There is a longbow sniper near Boyd, but he's stationary so he's forced to attack Boyd at 2 range. Riss gets this general out of the way so that Nyla can cover the bottom left treasure room, which thankfully has only 1 range enemies. There is a Blizzard Tome in that room, but as you can obviously guess, we did not have the time to get to it. I didn't really acknowledge Nyla's return earlier, and that's because she turns out to just not matter much in Part 4, despite being a Lagoose Royal. As you'll see, we just won't have the slots to bring her to the endgame maps. Raphael's last contribution on this map is inciting Oliver the boss to dump the blue paint on himself, which is helping with routing the map. Oliver is a saint, but he's irrelevant to the run beyond the money his inventory can be converted into. As you can see, Mist never needed the second flurry because, spoiler alert, we're not bringing a unit with such garbage stat caps to the endgame maps, so we could have saved the 9,000 gold we spent on the second flurry all the way back in part 3. I'll let the enemy phase play out. That's 4-4 in 2 turns, the last completely brand new turn save of the run, and also the last map that will take more than 1 turn. Boyd will cap out his stats on this enemy phase. After all those challenging routes, here's a breather kill boss. Joffrey finally rejoins us from 3-9, and along with him comes Bastian, an Archsage with corrosion. Bastian won't do anything in this run. The only tricky part with this map is the resource allocation. The classic one-turn strat for this map requires pass on a Falcon Knight, which we obviously cannot afford since we needed both copies in the Grail army for 4-4. We've also broken the rescue staff, so that's also not on the table to accelerate units forward. This means we need to move further than you would usually expect in a one-turn clear, but we're bailed out by the fact that Tibarn can shove promoted Tanith. We will put Paragon on Tanith since she is going to be our boss killer. This map is what forces Mordecai into the Hawk army. Kaiser cannot shove promoted Tanith, and Warrior Nolan could have shoved Tibarn in 4-2. We deploy a lot of infantry since we need to shove Raisin 6 times. Alencia will recruit Volke the assassin. Volke himself doesn't do anything for the run, but he brings us a very important stillness skill. It's a souped up version of Shade, making a Bayark basically never get targeted if alternatives exist, and we need it in endgame. While Volke costs money to recruit, he will more than pay for his recruitment cost with a base conversation at the start of the next map, along with simply the cash value obtained from selling the stuff in his inventory. Tanith does need to cap out her stats for what we want her to do later, so expect to see her grow a lot in the next map, and this one, of course. We will shove Raisin to dance for Tanith, and she will then pick off the boss to complete 4-5 in one turn. On to the endgames. Radiant Dawn is a game on an epic scale, and naturally having just one or two endgame maps would not be enough for it. Instead, we have a 5-part endgame. However, most of them are fairly straightforward kill bosses. Only the first and the final parts are really strategically interesting, and it is primarily the first part that will dictate the units we can bring to the tower. We're joined by several new units: Ranning, Enna, Kurthnaga, Kainagis, and Giffca. Ranning is a high-leveled gold knight who is irrelevant to this run, though you probably could have him replace one of the 9-move units who do eventually come to the tower if you really wanted to. Giffca is a lion with really high stats who brings Nullify, but again, he isn't a Laguz Royal, and that action of Wind Up just renders him worthless when we're one-turning every map here. His king Kainagis, who has Fortune, fares a little better. Not having 1-2 range is unfortunate, but Kainagis' high stat caps and powerful weapon as his strike, which he has at base, let him do some things that no other unit can. Kainagis is the unit we save the energy drop and both speed wings for. He needs 2 levels to cap his strength and 3 levels to cap his speed to achieve his unique contributions, and the stat boosters remove the need to give him any EXP. All 3 of these units do not get free deployment in endgame and are fighting for the discretionary slots. The same is not true of Enna and Kurthnaga, who get special tickets. Enna is a red dragon with Boon, Miracle, and most importantly, Blood type, which grants +5 strength and skill to adjacent allies. Kurthnaga is a black dragon and the est of this game with terrible base stats and A strike, coming with a Night Tide skill which grants +5 defense and resistance to adjacent allies. Black dragons hit on resistance. Enna and Kurthnaga will both contribute to the clear of the first part of endgame, and we need to give one of them Smite. Wildheart is not necessary here, at least in full recruitment, but I put it on them just to keep myself from forgetting about it later when I do want to make use of it. We have all of our units who won't be coming to endgame drop all their gear and skills in convoy for us to use later. We also need to equip our stars with the skills they need because we won't be able to manage their skills again until the start of the next map due to an oversight in the menus. We will forge a couple of silver lances for the very end of the game after offloading a lot of craft that we do not need anymore. As we head out of the base, Micaiah finally promotes to tier 3. Her stat gains are alright and she uncaps her stats. I actually do want her to cap out her tier 3 stats for something, so I'll be training her throughout the tower. She learns Corona as her mastery skill. Ike, Micaiah, Sot, Senaki, Kurtnaga, and Enna get free rides to the tower, along with one Herod of her choice, which is obviously going to be Raphael, and we otherwise get to bring 10 units. Our 10 will be Jill, Har, Marcia, Sigrun, Tanith, Elincia, Titania, Boyd, Tibarn, and Kainegus. 41 is the last route map of the game, and it is what ultimately constrains our tower choices. A one-third of this map has been known to exist but wasn't recorded in a continuous LTC, so I'm rectifying that. It has a lot of stationary and passive enemies we need to worry about, and we need all our units to move pretty far to actually cover everything in one turn. Senaki and Micaiah team up to siege a bishop on the right. If we backsplit up Micaiah, she could one-round that bishop with 3-use Burst Dome, which is possible to set up, but we just break the meteor to 2-round him instead. Tanith has Paragon and Provoke, and a free player face action to re-equip Micaiah before cantoing up to cover a stationary general and sniper. Provoke will ensure that the nearby generals will also go for her. This job can be done by a paladin as well. On the left, we want 2 Seraphs to fly over, one to kill the bishop while covering the stationary general, and the other to kill the isolated Blizzard Sage while covering the double bow sniper. Elincia has Shade since we'd like to still send kills to Sigrun, who has Paragon and hasn't capped her stats yet. The generals to the south will end up going for Elincia though, since they can't reach Sigrun. Back in the center, there are a bunch of generals in our way. They're all 1-range locked, but we have to be cautious about having Laguz kill them because of some sages with 2-range a little further down the corridor. It turns out we can have 2 Laguz trials clear out 2 of these generals, as long as Tibarn is one of them for the extra move and canto. Kainegus has better stat caps and a better weapon than Naesala, so he's the logical choice to be the other royal. With those 2 generals out of the way, I can kill the Stormsword general who would threaten to go for the Laguz trials, and we also just need him out of the way, as you're going to see. Ike has Provoke and the last copy of Paragon because he absolutely needs to hit high stat benchmarks for the later endgame maps. Titania and Boyd will kill the other 2 generals on the right to clear the way. This action by Boyd is only possible because we're playing full recruitment and have access to double pass. In incomplete recruitment, you would either need to bring Soren to endgame over Boyd, or you would need to invest in one of Kurtnaga and Enna so they could kill the general while half-shifted. Anyway, our 2 copies of pass are on Har and Jill. Another reason why we kill all the generals on the right, as you're going to see, is to ensure that nobody can reach Kurtnaga or Enna on enemy phase. Jill uses her extra move to cover the stationary bolting sage on the right before cantoing back into formation. Once again though, the dance spot is rather far away, which is where our dragons will come in. Kurtnaga will smite Raphael the 2 extra squares he needs to reach that spot. We could not give him celerity for this because that needs to go on a 9-move unit, here Marcia, to kill a specific general blocking off access to a couple of passive bishops. Marcia has celerity and Shade. Ike and Titania will cover those 2 bishops while positioning themselves to enemy face the stationary generals in that formation. Jill and Har take pass so that they can kill Lacane and Hetzel respectively and canto onto their starting spots to enemy face all the generals and cover tiles surrounding them. Seraphs would be a bit too weak to handle them. In incomplete recruitment, you would have to have someone like Saniki meteor a cover general from the left to clear out the way in the absence of a second pass. But wait, what of Raphael? He's out in the open with plenty of enemies nearby. And that is where Sot will step up. As a Bayarch, he can equip Stillness to vanish from the enemy's sight, and with a shove from Enna, he can rescue Raphael. Most of our units will cap out their relevant stats on this enemy phase. I'll let the enemy phase play out. That's 41 in 1 turn. It's time for Ike's final showdown with the Black Knight. Thanks to his level ups from the previous map, he's up to 35 strength and 37 speed. That's easily enough to 2-round the Black Knight with the hammer, but it's just short of 1-rounding him if you got him off the cover tile he starts on. I decided to do something a little silly instead of strictly maximizing Ike's EXP. Now that we're past the route map, our attention will turn to our other EXP targets, Tibarn and Micaiah. If we wanted Saniki to use Rex Flame to its full potential, we would want to train her further, but we don't really need to in this run. We also put Pass on Kynagus to let him kill the boss in the south for the Wishblade, and Ike re-equips Nihil to ensure that the Black Knight doesn't eclipse him. In hindsight, maybe I should have had Tibarn be the one to kill the boss of this map, but it's okay. To make up the point of attack on Ike, we will have him walk next to the wall and have Boyd on the other side of the wall. Despite the barrier being quote-unquote impenetrable, Ike will still get the attack boost from his support partner. Down south, Micaiah will farm a ton of EXP. In my test run, I recall finding ways to farm even more EXP on this map, but I couldn't remember what they were and I didn't really care to find out. Our other units will just stay out of the range of the enemies and we'll end turn. This will be the last enemy phase of the run, and at the end, Ike will 1-round the Black Knight with the hammer to complete 4 E2 in 1 turn. At the start of this map, Yune will bless the equipped weapons of all our units. This blessing is needed to kill enemies with Mantle on the next few maps, and will also cause the blessed weapons to have infinite durability. For the Lagoos, their natural weapons get blessed, while with the Bayard, we have some choice and can trade them around later as well. The boss of 4E3 is the Dragon King Deginsia with comically high stats. We're going to need to get 3 units and Enna up to him to finish him off for the 1 turn. Kurthnaga and Enna start off with maxed out gauge on this map, which is why they are able to transform without needing to equip Wild Heart. I will clear out a path for the units to use later. Anna will position herself to assist the Degensia killers with Blood type. Jill goes first to do about a fourth of Degensia's HP. Before Kynagus will take off half his total health in one go. We, of course, will give the kill to Tibarn, who will gain a full level, especially because Degensia's effective level for EXP calculations is over the normal Bayark level cap. That'll be 4 E3 in one turn. At the end of the map, Kurthnaga receives Form Shift, but it's too little too late. "4e4 is another kill boss and is our introduction to Spirit Guardians. We need to kill the 4 spirits surrounding the boss before we can defeat him, though in this case we can also simply shove them out of the way. We got 2 more units after the last map, Gareth and Nasir. Gareth is another red dragon with blood type, and he has better offensive stats than Enna, which we will put to use later. Nasir is our 1 white dragon coming with Boon, Nihil, and Whitepool, which grants +5 magic and +5 speed to adjacent allies. We give Tibarn parity to let him kill the boss of this chapter. The last few bosses of this game all have a Nihil effect, which prevents us from relying on our masteries for them, and this boss starts on a cover tile. Ike caps out his strength here. Tibarn will wander on Sephirin to complete 4e4 in one turn onto the final map. Tibarn caps out his strength off of this level up. We get the Rudol gem after this map, which is a PRF item for Saniki, which gives +10 defense and won't matter. Time for the grand finale. The objective is to kill the goddess Ashera, but she's guarded by 8 auras and we can't just shove them away this time. The auras all have Mantle, 90 HP, 30 in both defense and resistance, and The counter ones are on cover tiles, while the middle one of each site is on a wardwood tile. The most annoying part of the auras is their 35 speed. You need 39 AS to double them. This makes Nasir really important despite him not buffing strength. Only the Laguz Royals in our squad can double the auras without his help. We will Bex Micaiah up to cap her magic, give Wildheart to Gareth and Nasir, put Pass on Marcia and Sigrun, and Tibarn will keep his parity. Now let's get this show on the road. The main concern on the map is efficiency of combat. If we can kill an aura with 2 rounds of combat, we're generally keeping a good pace, while 3 rounds is below par. Tibarn and Saniki make a great team, as with Tibarn's parity and Saniki hitting resistance hard, they can tag team a cover aura. With capped stats, Kainegas can one-round a Wardwood aura with a Blood type boost, something nobody else here can match. With our Laguz Royals focusing on the right side, we have Nasir start from the top left to help out our Bayark. Nasir hits resistance, so with the Wildheart he can do a nice 22 damage to a cover tile. Micaiah got Purge blessed, so she can chip at a faraway cover tile. We didn't have her use Nasir's White Pool boost for this because we wanted her to end turn on that spot specifically. Next up is Jill. She can trade Purge to herself and use Nasir's boost to double a Wardwood aura with the Tomahawk and then Canto into dance formation. Kainegas will immediately destroy the other Wardwood next to him. While Tibarn and Saniki will cover the top right cover aura. That's 4 of the 8 auras destroyed very efficiently. With her second action, Jill uses the Urvan to chip down the bottom left cover aura. We obviously have a surplus of physical units, so it's unavoidable that some of them have to work on cover auras. She canters afterwards to a spot where our last new unit, Laran, can take the Purge to finish off the cover aura in the bottom right. In Incomplete Recruitment, you would bless Rex aura instead of Purge, which would require tweaking the strategy a little bit to make it work. Laran clears the spot for Gareth to move to, creating 2 spots where both Blood Tide and White Pools boost supply. Gareth also uses his large attack stat to chip the top left cover aura just a little bit more. One of the double boosted spots is still occupied by an aura though, but that's where Tomahawk Void comes in. With a support boost, Marcia can do 60 damage to that Wardwood aura from the boosting station. And she cantos up. Alencia then steps up with Amiti to do the last 30 damage. Cantoing right into that very interesting spot. Sigrun will then move up, and with an attack boost from her support again, she can pull off the FE Classic, the Triangle attack, to destroy the last cover aura, which is also the last aura. With Pass, she cantos to the right, and now the grand moment is at hand. Ashera's auras are down. Titania's speed cap is too slow to double auras, but Ashera is a bit slower, so Titania can quadruple her with the Brave Axe to cut off half her HP. And then we deliver the finishing blow with Tanith. After all, what's the point of bringing 4 Pegasus Riders to the endgame if you don't double triangle attack? With that, we've slain Ashera and brought peace to Tellius. Wrap it up, folks. Wait, that's a lot of talking. Wait, what's happening? What? She revived herself? Ah, I didn't expect this. I have to kill her again? What do you mean that didn't count? What do we have here? Oh yeah, Har. Har has a big strength cap, but like Titania, he's too slow to double auras, but fast enough to double Ashera. Let's have him take the Brave Axe from Titania. And then there's Ike. Let's just hit Ashera with the big sword and hope she goes down. Ooh, there's a fancy cutscene. Surely that's gotta be good, right? Alright, Ike. You have the power of 000 written to the RNs. Surely you're not gonna miss, right? Yep, looks like we're done. That's 45 in one turn, wrapping up this playthrough. Well, that's that. Radiant Dawn hard mode full recruitment completed in 125 turns. This was a mammoth of a project to complete, but I'm glad I got to show off a lot of brand new turn saves. The common question to anybody doing a Radiant Dawn LTC is, do transfers save turns? To which I'll reply, I'm not sure. Somebody else with a lot of time and energy can look into that, it certainly won't be me. As for incomplete recruitment, I believe Aran and Heather should each cost only one turn for a theoretical turn floor of 123 turns. But again, I'll leave proving that to somebody else. A big thank you to Dandan151 for all of his help. I'll leave you with the turn counts. Bye!